Talent is overrated. Why do some people rise far beyond others, even when they don't appear the most talented? Why do average students outperform geniuses? Why do underdogs rewrite history? Why do some people endure setbacks while others disappear at the first sign of struggle? The answer isn't intelligence. It isn't privilege. It isn't luck. Psychologist Angela Duckworth spent years studying the world's top performers, Olympic athletes pushing past pain, West Point cadets under extreme pressure, spelling bee champions, visionary CEOs, artists, and educators. She expected talent to explain success. It didn't. What she discovered challenged everything we believe about achievement. Talent opens the door, but it does not decide who walks through it. Some of the most gifted people quit early. Some of the most ordinary people go unbelievably far. The difference wasn't brilliance, it was persistence. A quiet, stubborn force that keeps going when excitement fades, that stays when results are invisible, that works when no one is watching. That force is called grit. Grit is the willingness to commit to a long-term goal, to keep showing up even when progress is slow, even when motivation disappears, even when quitting feels logical. This book reveals a hard truth most people don't want to hear. Consistency beats talent when talent stops showing up. What is grit? Angela Duckworth defines grit with remarkable clarity. Grit is passion and perseverance applied over the long term. Not intensity for a week, not motivation for a month, not excitement at the beginning, but commitment that lasts for years. Grit is staying loyal to a goal long after the novelty fades, long after applause disappears, long after no one is checking on you. It's waking up early when no one is watching, practicing in silence when results are invisible, continuing even when progress feels slow or painfully boring. Grit is not sudden inspiration. It's not hype. It's not hustle culture. Grit doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It doesn't seek validation. Grit is quiet. It is showing up again and again and again. In a world addicted to quick wins, overnight success, and instant validation, grit is rare. And because it is rare, it is powerful. Why talent fails without grit. Here's a truth most people don't expect. Highly talented people often quit first, not because they lack ability, but because they've rarely been tested. When things come easily, struggle feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar struggle feels dangerous. Talented people grow used to quick wins. They expect success without resistance. So when difficulty appears, when progress slows, when mistakes pile up, their confidence begins to crack. They don't think this is part of the process. They think, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Because for them, failure doesn't feel like feedback. It feels like a verdict. People with grit see it differently. They expect difficulty. They normalize struggle. They understand that growth is slow, messy, and often uncomfortable. They don't panic when results lag. They don't quit when effort increases. They keep going. Angela Duckworth discovered this pattern in some of the toughest environments on Earth, including the West Point Military Academy. There, success was predicted not by intelligence, not by physical strength, not by talent, but by grit. The ones who endured weren't the smartest, they were the most persistent. Talent may give you a head start, but grit determines how far you actually go. The grit formula. Effort counts twice. Angela Duckworth explains grit with one of the simplest and most powerful formulas in the book. Talent times effort equals skill. But skill alone isn't success. Skill times effort equals achievement. Now notice something critical. Effort appears twice. Talent shows up once, effort shows up again and again. This changes everything. Talent is potential, but effort is the multiplier. Without effort, talent stays theoretical, untested, unused. And even skill, if it isn't reinforced with effort, slowly disappears. Effort is what turns raw potential into real ability. Effort is what turns ability into visible results. This is why grit matters more than brilliance. Grit isn't about being exceptional, it's about being relentless, showing up when progress is slow, practicing when improvement feels invisible, continuing when motivation fades. Effort compounds, day after day, year after year. And in the long run, the person who keeps going outperforms the person who starts strong but stops early.
Passion is built, not found.
We're often told one simple piece of advice: follow your passion. But Angela Duckworth discovered something that challenges this idea completely. Passion doesn't arrive fully formed. It doesn't strike like lightning. It doesn't appear on day one. Passion is built slowly. People who achieve extraordinary things don't fall in love with their work instantly. They grow into passion. They stay with something long enough to understand it, to struggle with it, to improve at it. And something important happens when progress appears. Interest turns into practice, practice turns into progress, progress turns into pride, and pride slowly becomes purpose. This is the real sequence, not passion first, but commitment first. Gritty people don't chase excitement. They don't wait for motivation. They commit. They show up. They endure boredom, they work through doubt, and as competence grows, passion follows. Waiting to feel inspired is a trap. Action creates clarity. Consistency creates passion.
The role of failure and discomfort.
Gritty people don't avoid failure. They expect it because they understand something most people don't. Growth lives inside discomfort. Failure is not a signal to stop. It's information. It's data telling you what works and what doesn't. Failure is not a verdict. It's feedback. And discomfort? Discomfort isn't danger. It's the feeling of stretching beyond who you were yesterday. Angela Duckworth found that gritty individuals don't panic when things go wrong. They don't personalize failure. They don't see it as proof of inadequacy. Instead, they pause. They adjust. They adapt. They ask better questions. Not, why am I bad at this? But, what can I improve? What did this teach me? What's the next step? This shift changes everything. Because quitting is easy when failure feels final, but when failure becomes feedback, persistence becomes logical. Discomfort stops being frightening, it becomes familiar. And over time, what once felt painful becomes the place where growth happens. The power of deliberate practice. Grit is not mindless repetition, it's deliberate practice. Doing the same thing over and over without improvement doesn't create mastery, it creates stagnation. Deliberate practice is different. It means practicing with purpose, clear goals, knowing exactly what you're trying to improve, immediate feedback so mistakes don't become habits, focused effort, full attention, not autopilot, constant refinement, small adjustments, day after day. Gritty people don't just work hard, they work intentionally. They don't avoid weaknesses, they hunt them. They don't fear correction, they invite it. They don't stay comfortable, they stay in the stretch zone where progress lives. This is why two people can put in the same hours and get completely different results. One repeats, the other refines.
Over time, those small, uncomfortable improvements compound, and that's how average slowly, quietly becomes excellent.
Grit in school, work, and life. Grit doesn't show up only in extreme achievements. It shows up in everyday life. In school, grit predicts who finishes, not who starts strong. The students who graduate aren't always the smartest. They're the ones who keep studying when it gets hard, when results are slow, when confidence drops. In work, grit predicts leadership, not charisma, not titles, but the ability to stay consistent, to learn from mistakes, to keep improving long after the excitement fades. And in relationships, grit predicts commitment, staying present, working through conflict, choosing effort over escape. Because every meaningful relationship loses novelty and demands endurance. This is the pattern across life. Grit keeps people going after motivation disappears. It's not about intensity. It's not about bursts of passion. It's about endurance. The most successful lives aren't built quickly. They're built slowly, quietly, day by day. Can grit be developed?
One of the most hopeful ideas in grit is this: grit is not something you're born with. It's something you build. Angela Duckworth's research shows that grit is trainable through behavior, through habits, through repeated choices. You don't wake up gritty. You become gritty by setting long-term goals that matter enough to stay with. By showing up daily, especially on ordinary days when nothing exciting happens. By accepting boredom as part of mastery. Because real progress often feels quiet, repetitive, unremarkable. And by staying when quitting feels easier than continuing. This is where grit is forged, not in confidence, not in motivation. Confidence comes after effort, not before it. You don't feel strong, then act. You act, and strength follows. Grit is built one decision at a time to keep going when stopping would be simpler. Parents, teachers, and grit. Angela Duckworth offers an important warning, especially for parents and educators. Overprotecting doesn't prepare children for life. It weakens them. When we remove every obstacle, solve every problem, step in at the first sign of difficulty, we accidentally teach one lesson. You can't handle this on your own. But grit is not built through comfort. It's built through struggle. Children don't need constant rescue. They need support, not protection from effort. Duckworth emphasizes one simple shift that changes everything. Praise effort, not talent. When a child hears, "You're so smart," they learn to avoid difficulty. But when they hear, "You worked hard, you didn't give up, you kept trying," they learn resilience. They learn persistence. They learn that effort is valuable even when results aren't perfect. This applies far beyond childhood, classrooms, workplaces, teams, families. Any environment that values effort over outcome creates people who don't collapse under pressure. Because grit grows where effort is respected, mistakes are allowed, and perseverance is celebrated. Grit versus burnout. There's a dangerous misunderstanding about grit. Many people think grit means pushing nonstop, grinding endlessly, never slowing down. But that's not grit. That's burnout. Angela Duckworth is very clear. True grit is sustainable. Grit is not exhaustion, it's endurance. It includes rest so your body can recover, reflection so your mind can reset, recovery so your motivation can return. Gritty people don't try to win in one sprint. They understand life is a marathon. They pace themselves. They protect their energy. They step back, not because they're weak, but because they're strategic. Extreme effort burns bright and burns out. Sustainable effort builds quietly and lasts. This is the difference between short-term intensity and long-term excellence. Grit is not about doing everything today. It's about showing up tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. Because gritty people aren't chasing quick wins. They're playing the long game.
Final message plus call to action.
Talent can open doors, but talent alone can't keep them open. Because when excitement fades, when progress slows, when the applause disappears, talent steps back. Grit stays. Consistency beats motivation because motivation comes in dose. Persistence beats brilliance because brilliance means nothing without follow-through. Effort beats excuses because effort compounds even when no one is watching. You don't need to be extraordinary to succeed. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need endless confidence. You don't need to feel ready. You need one thing: to stay. Stay when the work feels boring. Stay when the results are slow. Stay when progress is invisible. Stay when quitting would be easier. Because grit isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. Grit is quiet, patient, relentless, and over time, it wins. Subscribe to Insight Beam for calm, powerful ideas that sharpen the mind and simplify success. Because in the end, the people who win aren't the most talented. They're the ones who didn't quit.